Welcome to the show. Welcome to Raw Babes 101. I am your host, Miss Kristen, and I have the most beautiful, amazing, spiritual, intuitive healer with me, Miss Susan Mikanikian. Before I'm even going to let you speak, I'm just like dying that we're here doing this at this moment. I'm so excited. I took a trip to Salt Spring to come here to interview one of my most favorite healers ever. You mean so much to me. You've been with me on my journey, and I'm so grateful to have come here in this lifetime, reincarnated again with you, and be doing this. This is just phenomenal. I'm just so grateful. I just got like fluttered with all this heat. It was just like, whew. So let me just introduce Susan formally. She's an intuitive healer and a spiritual life coach. I met Susan back in May 2021, and she has helped me on my journey up into this point, and we've become very good friends, which I'm so grateful for you. And Susan has a company. It is Rise of Anima. Did I say that right?
Correct, yes.
Perfect. If you guys know, I've practiced Susan's last name probably like 500 times. And I'm just like, I could not get it. I was like, what is it? And you're like, think of
Mechanic shop and
mechanic
the
shop.
mechanic in EN at the end.
Exactly. Okay. Susan, you're in the hot seat tonight. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to this moment in time.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me onto your amazing podcast. I'm very grateful. And I'm even more grateful because I've been a part of your journey and watched you grow at the speed of light, and I learned a lot from you. So I think our relationship is two ways, it's not just one way. And so, as everybody else, I'm intuitive, and everybody is intuitive, and everybody has psychic abilities, but we're not always aware of it right off the bat because, as a child, when our psychic abilities is still very fresh and innocent, our parents unknowingly deprogram us, right? So we lose all those abilities. So, fast forward, when I wanted to get pregnant, that was a big turning point in my life because I met this beautiful shamanic healer in Michigan who I worked with actually trying to conceive. But really, what happened is she really made me realize, that I am meant to use my psychic abilities and my healing abilities to help people find themselves and to be their full potential. And so that was a very interesting journey, very intense. And fortunately, I never got pregnant, but fortunately, I was able to really step into my powers and start this business. Of course, it wasn't something that I was able to do full time right away because I still had a bunch of fears and insecurities around doing this and trusting myself. And of course, I was in the corporation, working as an information technology consultant for about 24 years. And the money, the job security, everything overshadowed doing what I really wanted to do. So I started doing it part time. And but that wasn't fulfilling, right? Because I knew that I'm doing the wrong thing when I was not stepping fully into my powers. But like many times in our life, the shadow was stronger than the light. So fast forward, COVID came, and that was actually before COVID. I moved to Salt Spring Island from Vancouver, and I knew I had to leave behind my corporate life because it was consuming me. I was getting sick, I was miserable, I was depressed, I was unhappy, everything. So I moved to Salt Spring Island, and I never in a million years thought that I would be able to succeed in creating a business that will grow so fast like I did here in a very small community whose main source of income is tourism, right? And so one day when I just had enough, actually I quit my corporate job about 3 times before I finally quit. I kept going back because of, fearing and not trusting the universe and all that. So the third time when I quit, it was actually quite like a year or two before COVID, I'm trying to remember. And the first step I did is to tell myself, okay, Susan, you got to get your act together and you got to really step into your powers because otherwise you're just going to go downhill and be miserable. And I know because my body was breaking down every level of my being because I was not aligned and not doing what I love. And then decide to start with very simple things. I put sandwich boards all over Salt Spring Island, and then one thing after led the other. And of course, it was a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. But then when I started meditating and really focusing on making this shift in my life that my soul really, 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 really wanted to, things started to align. But I always had to remind myself to trust and trust and trust. And then everything's just started blooming, right? Now, what was interesting about this journey is I was doing, like I said, psychic healing and readings and spiritual life coaching, even when I was in the corporate world. So that's how one finds out what they really love is you kind of do it everywhere, like hidden. And then I started 3 times to do this business part-time, 3 times, trying to make it work. But because I wasn't fully in it, of course, it didn't blossom. So even in the corporate world, they would put me on very difficult projects with difficult clients so that I could tap into them and shift them and help them, support our projects or the projects that actually we were doing for them as opposed to fight us all the way. And, through that experience, I learned that when I'm dealing with people, every time you're experiencing resistance, it's always that inner child, that wounded child of that person that's communicating to you, right? That's it. It doesn't matter if I worked for General Motors, with high profile people, they're all humans with inner child issues, right? And the inner child issues comes from the childhood issues where mommy, daddy didn't love me, didn't pay attention to me, etc. So that's the secret to communicating, to succeeding, and to having to work with people in complicated situations, looking at them as a little inner human being trying to express themselves either through anger, through frustration, through putting you down, or ignoring you, all that stuff, right? So it's all about that pain that they're projecting. And if you are very aware of that, then you're not going to worry about them judging you, because they're not really judging you, they're just in pain. Even the most cruel people are just in pain, right?
Oh my
So
gosh.
if you shift that perception about anybody, that they're just mean or they're just horrible, even whether it's work or personal life, and looking at them as a different perspective, that they're just crying for help, right?
Yeah.
But it's very difficult if you're in your own household, things like this are happening, because you're going to have to live with that tantrumy adult, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I learned a lot about internal struggles, and everybody struggles. Everybody's suffering. It doesn't matter, gender, social situation, financial situation. It doesn't matter. Everybody's struggling, and it all comes down to, this is the bottom line and the secret. I'll tell you the secret.
Okay, guys, let's hear the secret. What is the
To
secret
suffering
ingredient?
and why it's an easy fix, but it's not an easy fix. Okay, so let's start with, imagine your grandmother was born innocent and loving, right? Every child is born innocent and loving. Nobody's born angry. Nobody's born struggling.
We're perfect.
Exactly. Everybody's just like, whew, I want to be loved, and I want to love. So what happens is, as soon as your grandmother was born, her mother and father started to right away imprint their own fears, their own survival mechanisms, their own insecurities, their own strengths and weaknesses. And because we come into this earth knowing that we're going to have to quickly discover coping and survival mechanisms, right? Because the human baby is the most vulnerable of all animal kingdom, right? We right away grasp into this knowledge, right? So then I go, okay, grandpa said, we always have to be very conservative with money, right? And grandma says, okay, we need to be, especially that generation, we need to just make sure we please men because they need to be there, because without them, we are financially not supported,
That's right.
So what's interesting is that belief system and that coping mechanism is transferred from the grandparents to the next gen, on and on. Even though we're living 100 years later, we still have those coping mechanisms ingrained in our DNA.
Totally.
Because here's what happens. When your grandmother was a baby, she already had the embryo that was going to create your mother.
Exactly.
So your mother's DNA was already imprinting. And guess what? In that embryo, your DNA was already there.
That's
too.
right.
So here we go. So your grandparents, got imprinted. Now fast forward, they had, your grandmother, grandfather had, let's say, your mother, Let's say that as an example. So they are just imprinting. Your mother's born innocent, ready to embrace the world. Imprint, imprint, imprint.
And I'm already in there. I'm in that. I'm the
Yes.
egg inside, being
Yes.
like, I'm getting all this vibe,
Yes.
frequency, fears.
You're getting generations of
Oh, yeah.
ancestry. Now, not only that, then comes the whole, social, economical, political DNA. Because as your mother's watching TV, the information is going in there. Program. So by
Beliefs.
yes. So you come. It doesn't matter how high vibrating you are. You are like you're getting, first of all, the trauma of coming out of a body and realizing, oh my god, I'm in this dense earth, because the energy of this earth is so intense, right? And so
like pea soup.
Dark. Yes. So now you're coming trying to grasp, how babies are grasping the air. As soon as you grasp the air, there is a doctor that you're already imprinting you right there on that moment, the whole thing. Now comes your parents, right? So here you go. Your parents every parent in my mind always has the best intention and wants to love. But what's happening is their coping mechanism and their survival skills, right? That I'm going to keep, for example, if I'm going to keep my energy shut down and I'm never going to show emotions because it's safe, you as a child is going to translate that as I'm not being loved. But if I would remove from that parent, let's say, that abusive behavior, that insecurity, that fear of feeling anything, and if I would take that veil or that shield away, and I could connect the parent and the mother, there would be infinite love.
That's right.
Because the only thing that stands between you and love is that shield, that coping mechanism, that survival skill, right? Yeah. And even when your mom's pregnant with you, she's already preparing you with survival skills, right? So you can feel how she relates to if there's a tense situation or she feels insecure, everything. You get all that. Yeah. So now here you are. Your parents are, let's say, working 12 hours a day to make the bill, right? And you never see them, and your grandmother's raising you. So how are you going to translate that? They don't love me. They're never here. So you become insecure. And if your father comes and maybe says something like, how come you didn't get an A? You should. You have time. Your grandmother's looking after your translation again. I'm not enough.
That's right.
But really, your father and your mother are trying to pay the bills. And your father's just making sure in his survival skills that if you get A, you'll never have to suffer like he suffers.
Like he is. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's always avoidance of something.
Yes. So what happens is we translate all of that into a negative thing, right? Because we're children, we want to make sense of the world. And obviously when we don't get something, we always say we're doing something wrong. So fast forward now, you're going to grow up and you got all these bullet holes in your body, all of them, right? All of the survival skills your parents taught you, good, bad, indifferent, right? And now you're looking for a mate. Well, with all those bullet holes, you're going to want somebody that's going to fill in those bullet holes of insecurity, right? So you're going to say, okay, well, my mom and dad didn't give me those stuff, so I'm going to look for a partner that's going to give it to me. Well, that's a trauma bonding relationship.
Oh my God.
Codependency 101, right? Now the honeymoon period is all good because, she is filling up your voids and, I'm feeling so good.
I'm like high on top of the world.
And then what happens slowly, you're going to learn manipulation skills to ensure that person is going to continue feeding that. Yeah. And it goes vice versa.
Yeah.
So what happens, woman often than not is going to get pregnant because as soon as you get pregnant, you're bonding that person to you, right? The man uses financial, dependency. Everybody has different tactics, right? So now you're so bonded in together because you need each other to fill that void that you should be filling yourself, right?
That's right.
But you're not aware of that.
Yes.
So then the honeymoon period is over, the reality kicks in, life is not as glorious. So then we start using emotional eating, shopping, alcohol, drugs, whatever, because the other person is not filling my void anymore.
So we need something else.
So I'm going to go and I'm going to do that because as long as I numb myself with all that stuff, right? I like the chocolate coffee. Oh, I got a new pair of car, clothes, trips, woo, like the buzz, you go on a vacation, you come back,
alcohol,
and
sex.
then everything goes, there's a high orgasmic experience with anything, and then this goes the low. So you're living your life in this.
Looking for the high.
So what happens, your body can't handle that up and down because you're always in fear and flight mode. Then you start getting depressed, gaining weight, all that shit, right? So besides, of course, dietary stuff. So
that happened to me at the same time. Yes. I just was like, okay.
So what happens is, the way out of this is to become aware of these survival skills that your parents implanted in you, and understand that they were unaware when they're doing this. Some of them, they were like verbally communicating, but they didn't realize they're imprinting stuff in you that's not very good. And every parent does it.
Oh yeah.
I have not, even myself,
Of course.
right? And I'm doing this for a living, yet I'm noticing I'm imprinting stuff in my son that I shouldn't, right? Because it's so deeply rooted in my ancestral DNA, generation
It's
after.
just it becomes normal. Like you
Yes.
don't even, and then you have to get conscious to go, oh my God, I'm doing the
Exactly.
same thing.
Exactly. So I'm really trying to live in awareness. So the thing is, when you start becoming aware, it becomes more painful because, before you were used to your stomach ache and, you're constipated, where you just live with. Now, like, God, I got to change.
Yeah.
Because this is destroying me.
Yeah.
And every illness is caused by emotional blockage. And the emotional blockage is all those bullet holes, all that lack of self-love. So everything. So when you have throat problems, it's because you never spoke your truth. Okay? Ear infection for kids, a lot of times they don't want to hear what's happening in the house.
Even glasses of not wanting to see.
Yes.
Not seeing clearly with eyes of love.
Yes, correct. For example, digestion issues, digesting life. Liver, anger, right?
Yes.
And anything in the second chakra, not everything, but a lot of them, and there's multiple things that can cause there, is controlling. I'm controlling life. I need to control life, otherwise I don't feel safe, right?
Wow.
And anytime you have anything in your second chakra, a lot of time it's possible sexual abuse, inappropriate touching, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? Every second client I see, male or male, females every second, male every fourth, that have been sexually abused.
You know what? This is a great topic because I want to bring awareness to this for everybody that's listening and watching, because it happens all the time with men and women, and it's just kind of blanketed, it's put underneath this rug because people are so ashamed and they're so afraid.
Yes.
And it's so important to talk about this because
Yes.
it's like knowing that you're not alone, and there's so many more people that have
Yes.
gone through this.
Yes.
And you can work through it, and
Yes.
you can heal from it.
Yes.
We all can. And part of coming here is to learn these lessons on Earth School.
Yes.
Of overcoming.
Yes.
So what do you find, maybe we can go there a little bit deeper into like the sexual abuse and how somebody can work through that, or any tips that you have in that area.
So regardless if it's sexual abuse or other things, not feeling enough, what's the main blockage is shame.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do, we will hide that so deep in ourselves because we're ashamed. It's like we're inadequate. If I bring that to the surface, we're inadequate. But here, and here's the thing I want to tell to everybody. It's very important to know. You can choose shame, but you're going to get sick because your body cannot handle that secret. No matter how much you deeply want to put it deep inside and how much you don't want to go there, it will come out one way or the other because the body can't handle the hiding it. So I've worked with Alzheimer patients, okay?
Oh my gosh.
And without exception, they had stuff they did not want to bring to the surface, so their mind got inflamed.
Yes.
And then what happens, it's called slow suicide. So their soul will leave even before the body dies.
That's right.
And just so you know, the power of shame. People would choose to die as opposed to bring it to the surface.
Yes.
So I from my experience and from my own experience and recommendation, it really comes down to a choice. But I never judge somebody who's not willing to go tap into there, because I know how difficult it is, right? I've seen it so many times where people were in cancer, stage 4, heavy cancer. They knew exactly what they needed to deal with, but they couldn't go there. So I'm just honoring that there's no judgment, because it's a difficult task. However, if you want to live a nice, abundant, beautiful life where things flow easy, you don't live in suffering, the first task is to go in there. And I tell you something, going in there is the most terrifying thing, but once you're in there, it's not as big deal as we think it is.
Yeah.
But that, from moving from here to going in there, is the toughest thing, because we're perceiving in our mind that we're supposed to be perfect. And nobody is, because we come in and our parents, no matter how good they are, they imprint us with a whole bunch of stuff we need to deprogram from our consciousness at all levels, right? So that's one thing. An easy exercise I would recommend for people to bring it to the surface is write down your life story. Take a journal and go to a quiet place and be very honest with yourself. Just write down everything from birth to now, everything you experienced, the good and the bad, right? And then slowly, when you're going to write it, things are going to start popping up. And you can put a special like star in the areas that are uncomfortable, that you're not ready to go there. So you just put a star there and then you move on to the next one, right? And then you go into the next big event in your life and your next big event in your life, right? And you celebrate the good and then you re-examine the bad. And here's the thing about the bad. You can turn it into a lessons learned, right? So everything that has happened to us, the most traumatic experience, is always a gift in it, no matter how dramatic it is.
This is very true.
Right? And if you take that life story and you say, okay, I was abused as a child, for example, right? And my father hit me with a pan all the time. Okay, great. What did you learn from that? Well, you learn from that you will never do that to your child. You will raise your child feeling safe, and you're going to probably be the most protective parent ever, right? So that's great. So when you have a child, your child will all be safe. There is something good in that. There's more, and that's a long conversation to go deeper, because there's a lot more to that than what I'm telling you. So anything like that, if you had a very bad marriage, okay, why was that marriage bad, right? Well, let's say you were bullied in your relationship. Well, what did you learn from that? Well, you learned that, well, you have choices because you did put up with it, right?
You allowed that person to treat you that way.
Yeah, and you did create a circumstance which perhaps it was difficult to get out. But at the end of the day, if it's an ex, you got out, right? So I try to do this over and over, and I re-examine my life many times, because I always find parts of it that I don't remember, I don't want to remember. And it's the most healing, is because it's just a story now, right? It's not, it's gone, but there's so much richness because it's impacting my future. So if I'm still stuck with something, if I go into the past and I switch it and reframe my story, then I can move forward in the future, right? So for example, if my teachers, this was a good example, because I was born in Canada, but then I went to Europe and to school there in Hungary, and the school system was very different than here. It's very strict. It's like almost like going to a military school, right? And because my Hungarian wasn't that good, the teachers would tell me, don't go to university, you'll never make it.
Oh, wow.
It's just
dimming the light. Cut off the arm branch, cut off the tree. Let's just dim you.
And then just go get a blue collar job. So that was really difficult for me, because teachers are role models. And so what I decided to do when I returned to Canada, I said, I got to reframe that story. And I didn't reframe it right away, which made me go to university and, finish my first couple of years with agonizing pain, because their perception about my capabilities really impacted me. So I was struggling. I was just reflecting exactly what they said. So one day I decided to reframe that story. It's actually with the help of another person. And I said, I'm perfectly capable. And what that did to me, it just made everything in my body work better. But that was a huge shift for me, right?
Wow.
So what did I learn from that experience is that I have the power to rewrite my story. And if somebody proves to me with absolute evidence that I'm not capable of something, but in my heart I know I am, I can reframe that story and I can take my powers back, right? And then people tell me, well, Susan, why did the teacher say that in the first place? I said, well, I signed up for that karma. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, before I came to this earthly plane, I signed up for everything I've gone through, right?
Exactly.
And it's annoying. And I'm not saying, sometimes I ask myself, what were you thinking, Susan?
Were you
exactly.
thinking?
But I say, okay, I got to rewrite that too. So I'm not going to be angry at myself. Okay, I am on heavy duty earth school, heavy duty. And this one I can tell you with utmost certainty is that when you decide to, first of all, when you heal yourself and you're flowing, you decide when you pass. That's it. That's the truth. People that die in diseases are dying because they have unresolved, stuff they're still hanging on to. So when you choose to pass, you're going to use that knowledge in this earth school all over in other dimensions and galaxies and planets.
That's right.
And from what I'm hearing from my higher spiritual guides and the masters that channel through me, and Dolores Cannon said the same thing, is
love Dolores Cannon.
This information is so powerful that we're gathering on human earth. It's beyond a PhD.
Yes.
She said there's souls lining up here to come here to learn. And this is a very tough school, I tell you. I'm the
Yes.
first one to tell you it's tough. Tough.
I know.
But
Yeah.
I remind myself I'm here to gather this knowledge because I'm going to continue serving, but now I'm serving at a much more broader environment, right? So
Yes.
that's how it is. And in between the journeys that I take, I remind myself also that the good that I've had, because the good is always dimmed over the suffering, because there's lots of good things. I moved to Salt Spring, I managed to live in the US, worked in the US for big corporations, I moved to Vancouver, I lived there for 10 years. What a beautiful city, the beautiful people I met, the beautiful experiences. But we don't talk about that, right? We talk about my mom did this, my dad did this. But I understand, because it's very painful. But I'm telling you, if you take this approach of just even writing down your life story, and if sometimes I need help too, so sometimes I go to my healer and I reflect, right? Because I can't see from my own shadow. I think everybody should have like somebody to go to, right?
Always.
But if you don't have money or you don't feel like it, just write down your life story and then pick out the parts of it that's really hurting and start healing, right? And I also strongly recommend meditation. People say, well, oh yeah, I can't focus. The thing is, when you meditate, choose a guided meditation where the person's voice is distracting your ego and your brain going on
your subconscious is going
exactly.
Like, and then it's like your subconscious is bringing in every thought to distract you, or to keep you small, or to distract or make you feel like scared. And before we go there, I know what I wanted to share. Sometimes people's thoughts are too scary, and that's why they don't want to go into meditation.
Yes.
And I can resonate with that, because when I've been at my lows, like ultimate lows back in the day, or somebody's going through depression, and getting quiet and actually sitting with that, that's why I know some people want to avoid this healing work.
Yes.
And avoid meditation, because they're like, I don't feel safe with myself.
Yes.
That's where I wanted to go.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And here's the irony is we have to live with ourselves for the rest of our life,
That's
right?
exactly it.
So we are terrified of those feelings because they take over us, right? So that's where working with somebody will help you, because we become almost like babies when we have somebody we have a safe space and they're holding the space. We can become babies and we can let down the guards, and really the guards are a survival mechanism. So if I'm working with my healer, I can let myself go, put down my survival mechanism tools and everything. I can deep breathe. I say, here I am, raw and vulnerable, help. And that's where that person can help you lift yourself out of this flight and fright mode, right?
Yes.
Because we're so in living in fright and flight mode. That's why we feel miserable and unhappy and tired and all that, is because we're always terrified something's going to happen, something's going to go. Before, the only time you were worried if the wild animal was charging,
coming after you.
Now it's like everything. Money, do I look
This,
am I beautiful enough? Nobody wants me. Loneliness, I'm tired of being with my parents, being always judged. Am I gonna ever find my soulmate? Can I get pregnant? Blah blah blah, right? So we got this endless expectations towards ourselves, and we feel like it's never going to be fulfilled, so that not enoughness takes over, and then we just go deeper and deeper, right?
And then your fears, and I find fears, false evidence appearing real, and people believe their thoughts, and their thoughts are not them.
Yes.
And something that I've worked on with you, where we were talking about when the thoughts are coming in, to grab them and throw them, let them go, because when you buy into it, you're buying into an old belief or program, and a lot of these times these thoughts aren't even ours. Most of them aren't. They're just from somewhere.
They're from your survival mechanism. So it's like a computer program that's in here, and I do agree that external energetic forces can trigger it too. But another thing is, so what happens is when you are just in this quietness, this kicks in. Because it's like a reminder. Okay, you need to be in high alert.
You need to be scared.
You need to, something's going to happen.
I need to keep you safe.
And then if you're feeling like, no, there's nothing going on, then it goes back into the past, but you remember, right?
That's exactly.
So the first exercise is to write down your life story and pick out on the parts that are really hurting you and reframe those stories. The second part is to manage your brain. So every morning, the sensitive part, or when I need to be aware, is I'm coming out of a dream, and then the first thing I realize, I'm up and I go, oh my God, I have so much to do, right? Oh my God, whatever the negative thought is, right? So that minute I pinch, I say stop, And the one thing I do when it's really taking over, I get out of my bed and I dance. And I start yelling and screaming, my life is great. Oh my God. Look at my beautiful this and my beautiful that. And
life is great. Oh my gosh, I love it.
and what happens, and I'm not a morning person. So I'm going to tell you, this is not an easy task for me, because in the old times, it would take me like 10 minutes to sit up and crawl to the kitchen, because I'm not a morning person. But I changed that because that's a very, very delicate time where the crap comes in. Oh my God, you're going to have so much to do. You're never going to finish. Oh my God, you know what? What if the interest rate goes up and down and you can't afford, blah, 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 right? So that's one dance I do. I go crazy dancing. Then when I'm like, okay, this is not taking control over me, I sit down and I do 10 minutes meditation.
Yes.
So I do guided meditation if I'm whatever I feel. But then I always focus on what I want my life to feel like, right? So I already have a great life, but now I want to expand it. My working now is I would like to travel to certain places. So I'm already traveling. I'm already doing there. So everything I do in my day is working towards that traveling. There's a specific island I want to visit in Spain. So perfect. So I'm going to
Let's call it in.
Yeah, exactly. So
Already done.
so I'm just gonna go there and sit, and I'm like, whew, and then I visualize my business growing and glowing, and every aspect of my life is whoo, and I'm feeling it. I'm faking it if I have to, but I'm feeling it. Now, guess what? My day is gonna go accordingly. But if my old self would wake up, I would just like put the snooze many, many times, which is not healthy because it's telling the brain it's bedtime again. And then comes the brain diarrhea. So before, I would think about something, and before I know it, I'm thinking about something happened 3 years ago, and I go, oh my God, remember when he said that to you 3 years ago there on the dock, and you did not respond the way you should have, and he was me, blah, 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 blah. It's called brain diarrhea, right? So here we go. I'm going down. Now imagine, now I'm adding to the story because my brain really wants to solidify this. Before you know what I'm talking about, the neighbor's dog that bit my cat or whatever. How on earth does that all come up, right? It's all your brain goes through like a quick memory and starts getting you into the flight and fright mode. Be prepared. Now I turn on the news. Oh my God, the world is falling apart. We have a war, the recession, the interest.
Oh my God.
So by the time I start my day, I'm all miserable because every step I took has just knocked me over. So this is what I do. So I do listen to the news 5 minutes, only local news. That's it. So I know kind of what's going on, school closed or whatever. That's it. But even then, if it gets too dark, done. And if I note, like if they talk about an earthquake or war, I always stop and send love to everybody. So I'm not ignorant of what's going on. I'm just not going into that energy because I don't have control over it. So why would I put any energy?
Put any time
But
or
I
energy?
do. If I can donate money for a cause, I will. If I can do something positive and empower, any way I can, I have. But I am not buying into the drama.
No,
because
I can't buy into the divide.
I can't, exactly. I cannot afford. And that's the old paradigm. That's third dimensional shit, right?
Yes.
I'm buying into the fifth dimensional shit when everything is flowing beautifully. Everything is on. Yes.
Let's go there for a minute, because what I've really noticed is the shift that's happening, and the fact that it's all happening at once. And there's people that I feel like are kind of like wavering kind of this way, then wavering this way. Maybe we can talk about the difference in like the new earth and the whole Dolores Cannon thing, the 3D, the 5D. Maybe we can just bridge the gap for people and talk about that.
So I'll explain what 3D and 5D is in very simple terms. 3D is when I'm living my life based on fear. Okay?
Yes.
So everything is out of my control. Everybody's controlling me. It's that simple. The fifth dimension is when I am totally connected and one, and everything around me is one. So when I look at situations like the the Russian war, right? The practical thing is we never know what the truth is. I had a CIA, a teacher in my political science degree, my undergraduate degree is in political science, and my CIA teacher told me so many stories about what happened in history that was nothing like what we were teaching in the book. So that's when I decided, first, I'm just going to buy into this. Second, I don't go into anything because I don't want to divide myself into sides. I'm not here to judge this or this. I know there's a karma going on, but I do am very empathetic with both sides, because both sides, the people always suffer. I'm very empathetic if I can help. So that's where I move away from the third dimension. I recognize it's there, but I'm all about unity in everything. Everything I do, I look for unity. In the fifth dimension, there's abundance and everything is flowing. And there's no mommy daddy issues. There's no bullet holes of insecurity and not enoughness.
Yeah.
Because the one common theme across the board in humanity is lack of self-love. That's it. That's it. Done.
That honestly, that is what everybody's issue is.
Yes, it's lack of self-love.
Yeah.
Because if I love myself fully,
Unconditionally.
I can look in the mirror and whatever my life circumstances, I feel complete.
Exactly.
But anytime we feel and see incompleteness is because of lack of self-love, right? And that lack of self-love was handed down from generation to generation. So the third dimension is all about fear. Everything is controlling me. Oh my God, I'm going to die in cancer tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh,
The fifth dimension is, you know, everything is unity.
No divide. No separation.
Nothing.
Everything is just good to go.
And now we're in the phase of fourth dimension, which is transition. And that's why this last year, starting from COVID, even before, has been so intense, because we're being encouraged to move out of the third dimension of fear-based lifestyle into here. But the thing is, with the third dimension, everything, we know how it works. We have a frame. Okay, I know that this happens, I'm going to maneuver like this and this and this and this, right? So I know how to play with fear, and I know how to play with circumstances. In the fifth dimension, from my conscious human perspective, I don't know how the game goes. So my survival skills kick in, and like, oh, like I don't even know how to live with just flowing in abundance. Like, what if something happens, right? So that's why we're in this very difficult in-between state where there's the soul in us. The core is like in there, but the old self is not. And here's why I know this is so true.
And then the body too. The body's trying to catch up.
Oh, yes.
This is another level.
Oh, yes. And there's so many light workers that are waking up. Like anybody and everybody that is looking to help others are all light workers, because your intuition is kicking in that we got to move ourselves collectively from third to fifth. And here's how powerful I experienced the third dimension self of me was. So I did this exercise, and you can do it too, where I would call in my future self, the woman that's already in that abundant life. And I felt her. I called her and I felt the freedom, everything. But there was a part of me that was still clinging on to the old, because that's familiar. Our animal instinct wants familiar. We don't like the unknown, you see? So I called in that old self, and I was letting go of the old self, but I could physically feel it. No, I'm just going to go here because it's familiar. It took me a lot of effort to cut the cords.
Yeah.
So much effort to accept the unknown.
Yes.
So I have to, my lessons learned from that, I'm living in the now. Like I have a very high level plan for the future, but I am living in the now because I got to practice to live in the unknown.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how next week after goes. I'm
here.
Because then it helps your business too.
Yeah.
Because if you're willing to live in the unknown, of course you're going to have strategies, everything, but you're going to just go with your intuition.
Yes.
It's guaranteed success.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I see, and that's why it's so difficult, especially full moon. If you're feeling like crap, like I had so many clients who were telling me they were sweating on full moon like crazy, is because we're shedding the old. We're going at the speed of, I don't even know if it's
fast.
Like what it's called is beyond light, and it's hard on our body. Like we're vibrating, we're going up and down and bipolar. And the problem is a lot of people are being misdiagnosed. There's no problems with them. It's just like we're shifting.
Yeah, and they're just needing to go within, get quiet, do their tools, do their healing.
Yes.
Get to meditation, get the help.
Yes.
There's so much help out there. And
yes.
This is why Tiffany and I do what we do, is to highlight amazing healers, intuitives, counselors, whether you do breath work, whatever it may be, so that everybody comes to this place and can resonate with somebody and find somebody that they can be their safe place.
Yes.
To work through this stuff.
Yes. Yes, it's not easy to do it alone, and I couldn't do it alone.
No.
Like I need help as like anybody else, because when I'm in the deep place and I'm trying to get out, just that reflection from the other person will help me just jump out.
And that's the mirrors.
And the thing is, we're in this together at the end of the day, right?
We are.
Yeah, and I think you got to choose what works for you, right?
Yeah.
So everybody offers different modality.
That's right.
Choose what aligns with you best,
Yeah.
right? That's the key thing. And remember, healers cannot do it for you.
No.
They can offer you tools and help you, but at the end of the day, you have to want to walk out of essentially from victim consciousness, where everything is controlling me, versus the empowerment, goddess or God, right? Both men and women, and we need men. I can't emphasize enough how much I'm so loving when I get a male
The
client.
Superior Man.
Yeah, because we need them. We can't do this by ourselves.
That's an amazing book. By the
Superior Man.
The Superior Man. That's a book that you recommend a lot of people to read.
Men and women. It really helped me understand of my dysfunctional relationship with men, where not intuitively, instantly I will try to domesticate them because I want to make sure that they're mine, they're sticking, and they feed all my needs, and they cover up my insecurity. You're mine because now I got you.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Go back to domesticating a man.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for people that don't know? Like, I think we subconsciously, this can happen, and women do this. They don't even know that they're fucking doing it.
Yes.
So we should.
So if you look at historically in the past, what happened is women were not able to survive without men because women couldn't work, or they win way less money, and they had kids, and they
would look after the home, look after the kids.
You got it. So you had to make sure there was somebody there to provide for you. So what powers do we have? We have powers of sex. That's one of them, right? Another power is that we become their therapist, and they're nurturing, and then we cook for them, and we do all these things for them. So the man feels so good at home that they never want to leave. And it was all survival skills, right?
Wow.
So what happened is, as things evolved, we learned how to manipulate men, right? And how to take their powers away. And now what we want them to do is be with us all the time, because they're also filling our voids. We go shopping together. We do everything we do together.
That's just codependency.
Yeah, exactly. But I want him there because he's my friend and everything, right? But the problem is, with that, we butchered men's spiritual power. Because if you look at the older days, when I don't agree with it, but let's go back to a time where I think there was a very evolved civilization where the men would go out hunting and do their man stuff.
Yeah.
When they come home, they have some time with the wife and they have some time with the kid, but ultimately women were the caretakers. And I'm not suggesting, I'm emphasizing that the man shouldn't participate in the caretaking in the household. All I'm saying to you is that men need to go out, and I'm using the word from this book, and penetrate the world with love, right? Because that's what the book says, and I agree,
know, but
where they find their masculinity. Because if you look at marriages, after a while, a domesticated man is not attractive, and the sexual urges decrease. Men complain to me all the time, wife doesn't want to have sex. Yes, the wife is taking care of the kid, she's tired, she's working, but also there's a sexual attraction fading away. But if you're
masculine, that, they want the prowl, like who doesn't want to be...
What you see on the movies, right?
Well, yeah, and who doesn't want to be, lack of a better word, devoured?
But our society doesn't also support this, right? Because there's women and men, husband and wife are working, so they come home, they got to share. But in a healthy world where we are not so conformed, the way we are right now, is a man would go out there and do his spiritual journey and his hunting, gathering, whatever that world would look like. And then women are doing their spiritual, magical, witch,
the herbs and the
herbs and healing. That's women. And imagine when the man comes home and the woman is totally in their God, not worn down because she has kids and work and all this responsibility. And the man comes home with this beautiful, shiny energy because he really stepped into his masculinity. Then imagine having sex.
Those hormones.
Versus now everybody comes home from work. They're so tired.
Yeah.
Your job wore you off because what do you do at work? You do people pleasing.
Yeah.
And now there's the kids who are just draining you. And now where is that passion? And then people go on date nights just to try to keep it together.
And then everybody's distracted from their phones.
Yeah.
This is the thing, men, people, women, whoever, men and women, we love to be desired.
Yes.
Being desired is everything. It's amazing. And it's amazing feeling when you are desired and you are attracted and you're attractive to your partner.
Yes.
That's insane. It's everything when they're like, damn, and they're like, they want you, that is an amazing feeling.
Because also in coupled with that, if both like let's say the fifth dimension, because what I'm describing in a healthy relationship is fifth dimension.
Let's do
In
it.
third dimension, it's just
Oh,
not. It's very difficult to make it happen. Now, imagine this: so the man comes home, and you're both healthy. You don't have mommy daddy issues, and the man has really evolved his own. You know, they got to test themselves. In the olden days, men would be sent away to test their powers, to test their capabilities, right?
Yeah.
You know, I forgot what the name was. They call it like there was like traditions and stuff doing this. So he comes back, and now he's capable. He's happy. He's happy to be home. He's excited to be home. Guess how much support he's gonna give you, vice you're gonna give him for his own growth, right?
Yeah.
So now you're not talking about not the internal or childhood wounds are arguing, because always when couples argue,
battling.
it's always their internal babies, the internal childs are
Just
arguing.
kids.
Yes, it's
Who's
like
winning?
my inner wounds and your inner wounds are arguing.
Nobody's
right?
listening.
Yes.
I say this all the time to people. I'm like, you guys are honestly like battling against each other and no one's listening. No one's home.
Yes.
Like, go away from each other, like go
Yes.
cool off, and then come back and revisit and listen.
Yes, and the wounds have to be healed, right? Because
Yes.
otherwise the argument starts
Cycle
again.
goes again.
Yeah.
It's a circle jerk, what I call the same cycle
Yes.
over and over again.
And now imagine when you're the male and the female of the household is living in their truth and the wounds are healed. Imagine the children. The
Oh.
children will be growing up. So one of the reasons kids get asthma is because of the stress from the parents. It's a big factor. And even if you're the best mom ever and the best dad ever, if you are stressed because you're trying to make ends meet or whatever reason you're stressed, the kids pick up without
they
you
feel
saying a
everything.
word,
They
because
feel it
kids
all.
are like sponge, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I always tell to moms and dads, don't ever judge yourself, because we do a great job judging. We're all doing our best
Oh my
because
God.
we're still functioning in the third dimension, right? It's like we're going like rat race,
Yeah,
right?
it's like we're jumping.
And then the same cycle again and again. But now that we're going, this is why I'm so excited to live now. Now that we're going into this fourth dimension where we're shifting, which is not comfortable, and we're stepping into the fifth, I am hoping that our children's next generation being born into this will have it much better than we have it. So I'm hoping us have learned so many lessons that we can take that, so we don't have to keep bringing in new generations to learn the lessons.
Exactly. And to not to scare anybody or like put fear out there, because that's not the intention, but it's like being mindful of these old programs and
Yes.
wounds as to where you'd like to place yourself.
Yes.
Because if you would like to stay in that environment or you want to stay in that cycle, you absolutely can. You don't want to heal the addictions. You want to numb yourself with alcohol. You're slowly killing yourself. Alcohol is the biggest killer. It really is. And people don't realize it. And they don't realize that them doing this act often is just slowly, like you had said before, it's suicide of a different form.
Yes.
It's just eating away at you. It's not wanting
Yes.
to be here.
Emotional eating and drinking and doing drugs, everything we do is destructive. And I can't emphasize enough. They say one glass of alcohol a day is okay. When I'm tapping into people, I see the damage done with alcohol, and it's really, really profound.
It is
So
bad.
if you put your finger in alcohol just for a couple of hours, see what happens to your skin, right?
Yes.
The alcohol eats the skin away.
Now think of that inside.
And then what happens to your organs, right? People's body inside is quite raw.
Yeah.
So, but I understand we all have to cope. My weakness is sugar, right? And I know how difficult that has been to keep that under control, because I got so many patterns of good girl, we get a sugar. We finish lunch, we get a sugar. Like it was a reward
That was the
system
reward, yeah.
from generations before me. So it's very difficult. But you know what? At the end of the day, I say, everybody do your best.
Yeah.
Don't start judging yourself that, I'm still eating junk food or this and that. Just every day do your best, right? And when you stop putting pressure on yourself, it'll be easier to shift.
Yeah.
Because this earth school is not easy.
Yeah.
Like by no means. And there's no magic formula, except the only thing I can say, work on self-love.
Yeah,
Heal the
self-love
wounds.
is
Heal
everything.
the wounds. So reframe your story. If you need to, another exercise you can do. The people that hurt you, write a letter to them. Okay? Write everything down, all the pain and all the suffering and everything. And then write down, how do you feel about yourself? Because a lot of times when we're angry at our exes or something else, we're really angry at ourselves because we put up with it. So write yourself a note, right? And then third, what did you learn from it? And even from the most traumatic, like especially rape is very difficult to heal from, because there's an invasion of much deeper than just your body. There's a sense of security, everything. Even that is a great exercise to write down what you went through, and then write down, because deep down, believe it or not, a lot of people that are raped blame themselves, not consciously, deep down.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, I must have done something wrong, right? So then you do a forgiveness to yourself, and then it's time to let go. You can take the paper and do a ceremony and burn it. You would say, oh, that's not going to work. It does work.
It does work.
It's a very subtle level, but it starts reframing, because otherwise you're carrying it. And I tell you, look at old people. You know how they're hunching over and then they're walking weird? All of that is life stories that was not let go.
It's true.
Right? All of it.
So much forgiveness.
All of that. All these hip problems and leg problems, beside the, I'm convinced it's caused a lot by dairy, right? Especially the crappy dairy stuff. It's also caused by legs, is representing moving forward.
Totally. I always say that, like knees and the legs, absolutely.
Yes. So when you have anything issues with that, you're not moving forward.
Yeah.
And beside that, so another thing is, so the emotional piece, you got to heal from the traumas you experience in your life. And then the next piece is just honoring your body, what you stick into it, right? Because we have so much fake food and so much toxicity. Regular detoxification, right? And then third category is enjoy the small things in life.
Yeah.
If you're going to dream all your life to be a famous actor, have a yacht, or have a big house, you're missing. And I missed out on so much time in my life just, chugging away with life. If I would give any advice to my younger self is, and I know a lot of people that were dying told me this, is enjoy what you have, because there is beautifulness wherever you are. There's something beautiful in your life, and don't compare, because I tell you, I work with people that are super famous, super rich, super this and that, and they're as miserable as anybody else.
Oh my God.
So don't think just because you're on, if Hollywood was the answer to all, why is everybody divorced? Why is everybody drinking and doing drugs and alcohol? I don't see that many. There are some, but not that many happy people in Hollywood. Even the people that walk the red carpet, they behind the scene have interviews. He goes, it's not as magical as you think.
Not at all. It's just a face. Everybody's putting on the mask.
Because we're bombarded and we glorify that we want it. Right? We always want what people glorify.
Fantasy.
Yes.
It's a fantasy world.
Yes.
Opposed to being here in the now.
Yes, and just, I'm telling you, life is good, but it's hard to feel it when you don't feel it, right?
Exactly. And then it's like reaching for that better thinking thought, or reaching for that little tool, or that, that assist. It's like that lifeline.
Yes.
And there is so much help out there now, which is so good, and things are becoming so talked about.
Yes.
People aren't just being in the shame. They're like, I have to do something about this because it's not working. The drugs, the alcohol, the sex, all these things aren't working for people anymore. They're like, what these coping mechanisms used to do, don't do that. Now they're still riddled with the pain.
Yes.
So it's an opportunity and an invitation to heal.
Yes. And one last thing I'm going to point out, and I'm going to talk about myself because I don't want anybody to think I'm judging, because I'm not. So if I think about the amount of money I spent on clothes and external things and makeup and this and that versus the amount I spent on self-healing, there's a very different amount. And the reason is because I thought to myself, if I have the nice car, the nice clothes, then I can talk about my vacation and everything, I will be accepted by the external world. So the amount I spend on that, I mean, I cannot tell you how many clothes I had with tags and how many styles I tried out. Not my style, but the styles I was hoping to be accepted because of lack of self-love, right? So we will spend more money on something we can impress other people because we're seeking love and approval than on our internal self, right?
Totally.
We will spend on any kind of external fancy creams on our face or makeup to look beautiful, but we won't buy the organic food that has less chemicals. Because why? Because nobody sees it. And I'm the first one to tell you that was me, right? So I'm not telling anybody what to do. Everybody lives their life.
No, but it's calling it, I love how it's calling it out though. It's truth.
Yes.
This is truth.
But again, if you feel that external stuff brings you happiness, do it. Whatever makes you happy. I had to go through this whole process to really fall in love with myself.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was getting too expensive to please the world. Plus, I never got back what I really wanted.
No, and
right?
it's
The
just
total acceptance, which I needed to totally accept myself.
yeah, and it's like these are our suits. This is our avatar.
Yes.
You can dress it up how you want, but what's important is the shell, the inside the shell.
Yes.
What are you filled up with?
Yes.
What are your thoughts filled up with? You know, I will say, even me being in a women's shelter for however long, what did I have a non-negotiable was my healing.
Yes.
Talking, getting help. Like
Yes.
at the lowest point when I had no money,
Yes.
not a dollar to my
Yes.
name. It didn't matter. I had to find a way.
Yes.
And like even through the 2019 and all the COVID stuff and everything was like this massive reset for everybody. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I'm even
Yes.
so grateful for the shelter because I was able to access my true self. Who am I without the distractions? Who am I just sitting in a room with nothing?
Yes.
Who the hell am I?
That was such a powerful journey in your growth. I mean, I was following you. Of course, I was there for you. That like I was just, I wish I had the opportunity to make a movie out of it, right? Because it was like you were robbed from everything, anything and everything, right? Which was biggest gift you ever could give in yourself. Because when we are everything is taken from us, that's when we realize who we really are.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, it's painful, it's uncertain. We don't like uncertainty, but that's the point where we hit the rock bottom where we rise.
Yeah.
And since then, you're just rising, right?
Yeah,
You're just growing into your true self.
Insane.
And it's like, I always ask the universe, like, there must be a different way to have all these lessons learned that we can use it into multiple galaxies and universes. Like, it shouldn't be this way. I haven't gotten any answer, just smiles. But I'm telling you, I'm a persistent woman, and I am going to find a way so that we don't have to continue learning these lessons the hard way for you know, the generation after, or people that are struggling with transition. My focus is always, what is the quickest, fastest tool to end suffering? Because I suffered so much, and I don't want that, and as many everybody else, right? And I don't want that for people. If I can find any way, you know, my methodologies that I'm using for my business, I think I've gone a very positive way where I reduce people's healing time, but I want to reduce it further.
Yeah.
I want them to just give them the tools and then just live in abundance and happiness. Because
Exactly.
this world can be like the old,
Yes.
you know, religious book says, we can bring heaven to earth, right?
And that's
the
exactly
old
creating,
religious books,
creating
not
heaven
the,
on earth.
Yeah, not the
Not
rewritten
the
ones.
rewritten
Yes.
bullshit.
Yes,
Oops.
correct.
Did I say that?
Yes. There we go.
But guess what? We can, because
Yes.
it's Raw Babes for a reason.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So much.
Yes.
You're incredible.
Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful for you.
Well, as I am grateful for you.
And you know, I will share with everybody. So Susan came into my world. I came into her world because of the beautiful and magical Dar. He came to Salt Spring, and he found Susan just on a beautiful sandwich board, just chilling on as he drove by, and the beautiful gift of him trusting his intuition and being on his spiritual journey of such a beautiful transformation and healing, reached out to you, and then the gift just kept giving.
Yes.
And then of course
that's how I met you after
that's
that.
how he he sent me all of your information, and then it just keeps going on from there. And now you're on the show, so you can help so many other people.
Yes.
I'm just so grateful for you.
Well, I'm very grateful for you too, right?
Yes.
I believe that it doesn't matter what you do in life. Everybody's a teacher and everybody's a student. Like every single client I've ever had always taught me something. So I cannot grow without others. That's the bottom line. So I think and it's not like one is better than the other. I think it's just the perfect harmony between people, one healing and one trying to help heal, because it goes vice versa as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's insane. Is there anything that's been on your path, on your journey, that is, what am I trying to say? That's just helped you, like from going from way back, like CEO world, childhood world, to this moment? Like, what was the thing that helped you to really get from A to B?
Believe it or not, my traumas. So my traumas, it sounds crazy, but my own, you know, challenges as growing up as a child is like all that stuff that my parents tried their very best, obviously, but they imprinted in me their own survival skills, just like their parents imprinted theirs. And those just made me strong because like was either, you know, move forward or not, right? So that I found that strength in myself through that, and that kept me going. But it also turned sometimes out into negative because I became a bit of a control freak, right? So that was my, I can do this, I got the power, I'm the warrior, right? So I went like boom, I can do it. It carried me through, but it was more of a doing and manipulating and controlling, right? So I had to really deprogram that into more of a being, right? And honoring and finding my feminine and masculine. So it's always that dance between the feminine, the soft, almost sometimes submissive, versus the masculine, the in control, I'm dominant, right? The negative aspect of them. So I had to really find the centeredness, and then believing that there must be a better way.
Yeah.
I once, like, you know, I have many weaknesses, excuse me, but one of my strength, I would say, is I always say there must be a better way. And my motivation was, if there is a better way, I'm going to share it with the world so people don't have to do what I went through.
Yeah.
Like that was my thing. Like I have to find a way because I need to prevent future generations and my generations and younger ones is to suffer this much. Like it's just like, yeah, that was my motivation. So I think it's just from trauma, there's a lot of gifts.
That's it.
Like if you look at Oprah and all of the famous, like Dwayne Dyer, even Caroline Myss, like everybody has their struggles and suffering, and they turned it into their gifts.
That's right.
So I think if you take what's tough and turn it into your gifts, to look at how you can turn it to gift, it's going to be much, much easier, the journey.
I always say that I got this from Lisa, actually, another counselor. She always said the brightest lights come from the darkest upbringings.
I agree.
And everybody is, you know, I shouldn't say everybody, but many are definitely bright lights. And I mean, we're all born here as perfect, and then of course the dimming happens. But it's really truly to finding your light again.
Yes.
Who are you before all that trauma?
Yes.
And not holding on to it. And I love something that you teach is about victim consciousness.
Yes.
And you really help people pull them out of that.
Yes.
Yes, of course, it's a mirror, and you're acting as this beautiful mirror so the other people can, like myself, for instance, being that mirror to really show me what the hell, like, what are you holding on to? What's that old story?
Yes.
And do you want to be a victim? I'm like, hell no.
Yeah.
Not even, no. And people don't even realize that they're in that.
Yes.
They have no idea. They're just living their life. They wake up and they're like, I am a victim today.
Yes. And
every day.
And you know why we're victims? Because it's easier for me to say that person is causing my suffering than me owning it. Yeah. So let's say if I'm in a dysfunctional marriage, right? And my husband is a narcissist, let's say, for example, right? So I have all the evidence. Here you go, my friend. You see what my husband's doing? You see? So what is that going to do? Nothing. Because you can't change your husband. If your husband has his own wounds, because I believe narcissists are very, very hurt little children inside there who never felt loved. So I can talk to the cows come home to everybody about how narcissist my husband is, but at the end of the day, he's not going to change.
No.
He's not motivated to change because he's hurting and he's very hard to change. But what I can do, I can make a choice. Do I want to live in this or not? And that's why I rather spend my time in victim consciousness, because then I don't have to make a change, right? So that's a big, big trap for humanity. But if I choose to say, no, this is not working for me, and I take that step, it goes into the unknown.
Yeah.
So I rather stick in the victim consciousness because I know how to play the game.
That's right.
But in this one, if I divorce,
who am I? But without all of that, without the distraction,
what is going to happen with the house? How are we going to? Where I'm going to live? How's going to all that stuff, right? The impact on the kids. So, but that's the first step you take towards empowerment into the unknown, and you're always taken care of.
Always.
Not to mention, if we live in North America, really, we're always taken care of. I believe in everywhere else if we have that vibrational frequency,
always.
Right? So that's where the victim consciousness, it's, and especially if we're violated or physically abused, everything, the thing is, it's not serving you, because each time you talk about it, you're reinforcing that you're a victim and you're taking away your own powers. Mm-hmm. So it's really a choice. But we reward victims. Oh my God, that poor person did this and that because we know they suffered. But really, when we reinforce that, it's not doing anything good for the person either, right? It's like you're protecting the kid all the time against bullies. Oh my God, you poor thing. He's going to turn into a victim. As opposed to, okay, we need to change strategies, okay? So at school, you're having this bullying. Either we do this, or talk to the principal, or you're going to move out of the school. You're not a victim. It's just we need to change circumstances. Probably the universe is saying this is not the right school for you. Or probably we need to do X, Y, Z, or you need to stand up for yourself, whatever. The parent has to make their own choice. But as opposed to letting that child or that person become a victim, but it's like a third dimensional concept. In fifth dimension, there's no such thing as bully and victim, because if the inner child is healed, there's no even the people that murder, all of them come from wounded homes. A person it hasn't been impacted by all those negative survival skills will not going to go on a murder rampage, right? If I were to run this country or any country, I would put tons of therapists into the prisons and medical institutes and the mental health places, because if you heal the wounds, they're not going to go back into prison. If you heal the wounds, people won't do drugs, right?
They're not angry.
But we're not there yet, right? Because this Gabor Mate's concept of the childhood trauma causes everything else is still something that's shunned by a lot of researchers and the medical industry. They're not there yet. But at the end of the day, like, it takes me 5 minutes to look at somebody and tell them, just from their body language, I can tell mommy or daddy issues, what are the stuff, the way that you hold your knees, your buttocks, everything. If you're holding your bum really tight, when you got this not nicely curved shape, that's because you were under lots of tension and you felt controlled, right? So hunching over is you had to cover your heart, right? So, and then there's lots of other stuff. So it's like we all carry our wounds right onto our body, right? So that's easy. So if our body's showing our trauma, it's going to be inside too. And if you heal all that stuff, abundance, like, I'm talking from personal experience, and I'm still on my journey. I still have healing to do.
Always.
But my life is just amazing compared to how it was when I was when I was living in the corporate world, just making lots of money, blah blah blah. I was so miserable. It's because I was totally not in touch and I was carrying my wounds, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. What popped into my mind is I'd first like to just dedicate this video to Dar in loving memory of him. It was 1 year ago on April 9th, 2022, when he exited, and I know that he would want and wants, because he's always guiding us, nothing more but to have your beautiful face on the show to share what his soul mission was here, was to help others find themselves, their true healing. Because something that he did share with you and me is the gratitude that he had from just giving out your number to see the rippling effect to other family members and friends in his community, and how by him doing his healing, it's just that beautiful rippling effect. And then, look at with me and me doing my healing. Now you're here sharing with everybody else. So he is impacting this world.
And he's still impacting us.
And he still is.
Yes, Dar was all about helping others. Like, he was a very high vibrating healer. Of course, with his own demons, like all of us.
Always.
And to his last minute, his last breath, he was just trying to help people in any way possible. Like, at his funeral, I talked to people, and everybody was just saying, yes, Dara was all about helping. Always. And I remember one profound message was from an elder East Indian man, where he lived by very deep traditions, and he goes, after Dar passed, he goes, now I can really understand his words, and I'm never going to continue my life the way I did before. Wow. So that was a profound coming from that gentleman. That was really, really heartwarming, right? Because it's all about, breaking the old that's not working anymore, and it's restricting, right? Because he realized his own belief system, his own tradition was restricting himself in so many ways and impacting his own kids, right? So that was amazing, and I think he will always be there. Like, Dar is not going to cease to exist. He's always going to always. He's like, he's doing work even now.
Always.
Always. I
He's
totally
guiding.
agree.
Yeah. And I am forever grateful for the experience that I got to experience. And Susan was able to be a witness to both of our union.
Yes.
And it's, yeah, super emotional. But it's so beautiful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. So
Yes.
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for him. And yeah, dedicating this video to him. He's, I know, smiling and is so happy.
Yes.
And so proud of you for just continuing to step into your
As
powers.
he's proud of you as well, of course. Yes.
Totally. Thank you so much, Susan,
No.
for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. We have much to do.
Yes.
Lots of work. Before we end the show, can we just share with everybody where they can find you, and a little bit more of like what you offer, just like individually one-on-one, and then maybe even share your meditations.
So I offer many kind of programs. The basic one people come to me is for psychic reading, and really what I do in those psychic readings, I tell you what's blocking you and what are your potentials. So that's a short, quick one. And then I also long-term spiritual and life coaching, where I help people overcome the blockages and the traumas that's preventing them from having an abundant life. Everybody can have an abundant life. The only thing it's keeping you is your childhood, wounds. So that goes into different levels, working on the childhood wounds, and then working on the present, the impact of your present life because of those wounds. And it goes like a domino effect. This is healed, that starts getting healed. Then we focus on love life, personal relationship, children, money, health, right? Those are categories. And then we also move into the spiritual evolution, where I teach them how to use their psychic abilities, how to really astral travel. And a lot of times, people already been there. They just need some help to really guidance. And then using those other time and space plants and wisdom and medicine, and bring it back into this earthly plane. And one more category is to help people find their divine purpose. That's a big one, because we're all, trying to, like, when we're in the early age of healing, we don't really know what we're supposed to do, even though it's right in front of our face, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the core of my business. And
that's
then
like one-on-one sessions.
One-on-one sessions. I also do every Sunday 9 a.m. PST a group meditation.
Very powerful. Zoom. Very powerful.
And
I will say.
It's $10. It's quite cheap. I do that so that everybody, if people can't afford one-on-one, they can come healing. And what we do, we talk about a theme, and it's all about empowerment and abundance, and helping people grow into their full potentials. And people come in with illnesses, and then we heal them collectively. I had a woman who had issues with her breast, and we did a group healing. And
I think I was in on that call.
Yeah, and then she's feeling better. And so that's for that. And we so during this session, I'm going to ask you guys to find a quiet space, and then I take you into a deep guided meditation. I tap into you, of course, with your permission, and then I bring in the beings that I work with, and then you're doing your work, and I'm supporting you. I'm creating a safe place for you.
It's a beautiful guided meditation, and we go on a journey.
Yes, and then you get out of that meditation, and there's shift happening. Yes,
it's true.
Yes.
And I will say too, when you do one-on-one calls with Susan, obviously you guide it and you design it however each session is needed, but sometimes a lot of the times at the end you end the session with a meditation, and they are so powerful. It's my favorite thing ever.
That's a good point. So what happens is usually the first half of the session we talk and we work, and I give you homework and things to do, and the second half is the meditation where we start the shift. Sometimes if I feel it's necessary, we do hypnotherapy as well.
Yes.
And that's in person. Because a lot of times when we do hypnotherapy, there's going to be a lot of information coming through you, right? Not through me, right? And that's really powerful. The other things I do is retreats. So I do 2 to 3, sometimes 4 days of retreats. It's a one-on-one retreat where we dive into everything. It's like very intense, and we also talk about diet and food and healthy lifestyle.
It's the whole package.
It's the whole package. Like I had a woman here not long time ago, and she had a very serious Crohn's disease. She literally walked into the door with extraordinary pain, and she left feeling 100%.
Amazing.
So we shifted. We did a lot of exercises for healing. I cooked for her. I made food that I know her body likes, and she felt 100%
Oh,
better.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I do. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So everybody can find you. Susan is on Instagram now, which I'm so grateful.
And
She's
on TikTok and on Facebook as well.
She's on all the platforms,
Yes.
and she's rocking it. I love what you're putting out. She on Instagram does videos, and just what flows through this woman is phenomenal. It's just like such great information, and you could be in like a really shitty spot, and then boom, you look at her Instagram, you see the message, the messages, and they're just like they just hit at the heart.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, those I do that because I want to help people again. If people can't afford to come see me, I want to help any way possible. Of course, respecting my own boundaries, right? Because I have to
Energetically,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Everything is energy. So
Yes. So so that's it. And I'm thinking, what else did I miss?
website is
Rise of Anima, and it will be in the description.
oh what does anima mean, please?
Soul. So the rise of the
Rise
soul.
of the soul.
So when we feel empty and we feel disconnected, it's because our soul is not fully integrated with us, and the soul leaves when we have too much trauma. Like segments. That's why we do soul retrieval as well during our sessions, and that makes you really feel whole and complete. So that's why I named my business Rise of the Soul. Rise of Anima. I chose a Latin name for the soul. And what else was I going to do? There was something else I was going to say. Oh, and I have free guided meditations links on my website. So
Perfect.
it's under resources. And if you click on guided meditations and books that I recommend as well. So
Cool.
there's information on my website.
Amazing. You guys, I know will reach out to Susan. We will definitely have her come over to Vancouver. We're in talks of doing a collab with a circle, one of our meditation circles. Get Susan to come and do some massive healing on a large scale. So we have much to do.
Well, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of what you and Tiffany are doing with your business, the Raw Babes
101.
101.
It's okay, Raw Baby. We're
Babies,
both raw
yes.
babies.
Yes, and I love the colors and all the clothing line, and you guys are really taking the business to the next level. Like, it's amazing.
Yes.
Like, you're just, you're a great example, you and Tiffany, where you're stepping into the unknown, into the
Totally.
uncomfortableness, because you're loving it. So
Yeah.
you know that your heart is in it, is going to succeed.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just consistency, staying
Yes.
with it.
Yes.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Just one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. Just trust.
Yes,
Let go.
correct.
All right, we are signing off. Thank you all for tuning in, and comment, ask questions, reach out to us. Let us know if you want to know more information or have questions. We want to hear it. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe.